Welcome to story time. How do we do this again? You take a minute to get really, really comfortable. That's what happens next. Cushions. Maybe you want a banana. I don't know why you might want a banana, but that's just what came to mind. Maybe I want a banana. I have a coffee. That'll do. While you're doing that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how all of these stories are supported by patrons. And so, if you would like to become one of them, receive bonus stories and other things, you can do that on patreon.com/can I tell you a story. And now, if you're comfortable and have your banana, I will take another sip of coffee and let's begin. Like I was saying, said the kangaroo, though he hadn't said anything up until that moment. We were side by side leaning on the gate, looking out across the paddocks at the sunset colours, all violent orange and red. Like I was saying, he said, fur-rimmed eyes reflecting the sky, the stars are wrong. I looked up. The red was bleeding to a bruised purple grey as the sun dropped further out of sight. Not now, said the kangaroo. Obviously, he didn't say. When it's dark, when they're out. They're wrong, you'll see. How can the stars be wrong? There's a hole in them. Something got out. Talking to him was like drawing blood from a stone. I drew blood on a stone once, with a piece of red chalk. It seemed to mean something at the time. Dissatisfied with the result, I'd skimmed it across the dam. It sank, before it reached the other side. Or something came in, I said. He twitched, a shudder running all the way down the skin of his back in cascading ripples. He made as if to swipe at me with a paw, his mass shifting back to rest on his tail, lying there thick in the dry grass. We were of a height, he and I. The sunset made him red. I never knew if this was his real colour or a trick of the light. He only ever came at sundown, or in the dark, when he looked silver in the starlight. A hole in the stars? I didn't believe him. He was prone to hyperbole when it came to things that couldn't be proven one way or the other. We stood, silent with our own thoughts as the red bled from the clouds and the colours from the landscape. With the first stars came the wind, gathering the clouds and pulling them away, blowing the scent of sun-baked grass into our faces. More and more stars appeared, like someone was up there, behind the deepening dark, pricking holes in it with a silver needle. My breath caught, or the wind took it. Right there, in the path the setting sun had not long travelled, was an irregular mass of blackness that looked very much like a hole in the stars. The kangaroo was right. He looked sideways at me, looked away, smug, when he saw me glance over. Which was it? I asked him. Out or in? He flicked an ear. Direct questions discomforted him, which was why I asked them. He looked back up at the hole in the stars. It wouldn't stay still, seeming to spin slightly off kilter. The centre wasn't the centre. The sight of it made me afraid. In, I said. Something's coming in. It worries you, said the kangaroo. It feels like a nightmare, I said, the kind I had when I was small and the world was big and terrifying. Looking at that hole makes me realise nothing has changed. The world is big and terrifying, and I am still so small. Standing there in an adult body, I was a child again, dressed in thin cotton pyjamas, and hugging a too small dressing gown around myself that did nothing to shield me from the terrors conjured by my own sleeping mind. My heart beat fast, and my breath was tight in my chest, and I couldn't look away from the hole in the stars. That I could see nothing crawling through it only made me more certain that something was there. Fear made my mouth taste metallic. The kangaroo leapt, then, from a standing start. It shouldn't have been possible, but I saw it. As he soared, he fragmented, splitting into shards that glowed, swarming and misting and breaking apart. I wondered if it hurt. I wondered if it was ecstasy. I wanted to know it for myself, and it was a source of grief for all the days to come that I didn't know how to follow him. The hole in the stars was gone, filled with a light that had been the kangaroo, and the night was ordinary again. I took a breath and felt the kangaroo's absence beside me. Every night I went outside and looked up. After a time I moved to the city, circumstances more than choice. I could no longer see the stars. Still, I kept that nightly ritual. When I got too old to climb the stairs to the roof of my building, I looked out the window, craning my neck, hoping for a glimpse of a pinprick made by the long silver needle held in an unseen hand. There was a tap on the window, a soft nose pressed against the glass, breath steaming a circle around it. My hands fumbled for the catch, pushed it up enough for him to do the rest of the work. I was on the 5th floor. He was standing on air. The kangaroo had been gone long enough for it to be forever. Business to tend to, he said, and his soft nose wrinkled as if in distaste. What business? He scratched his chest, eyes half closed. None of yours, he said. I saw in the light of the corner lamp that his fur was truly red, though he had grey around his muzzle. I wondered if the grey had always been there, or if he, too, was getting old. Got any grass? He said, eyeing a dried flower arrangement that had been gathering dust on the mantelpiece for years. Go ahead, I told him, and he poured himself in through the window. He was too large for the room, untamed nature enclosed in straight lines and right angles, things that were never seen in the wild. He ate the head from a dried everlasting and grimaced. Tastes like time passing, he said, letting the rest of it fall to the floor. It is, I said, passing. I looked at the back of my hands, skin grown thin through the years, no longer browned from the sun. A ferocious longing came on me then, for space, for sky, for the rolling brown plains. I looked at the kangaroo, whose grace turned to awkwardness, as he knocked never-finished books from the coffee table with his tail. I wished he was a she with a pouch, and I could climb in and be carried away. He looked at me like I was making no sense at all. You're doing it wrong, he said. Tired of his cryptic words, I crumpled onto the couch. I don't know how else to do it, I said, and to my own ears my voice sounded wavery and lost, matching the feeling in my chest. His nose twitched. You can do better than that, he said. The room was too small then, crowded with the detritus of a life that wasn't really being lived. I was dissatisfied with all of it. None of it means anything, I said, and the kangaroo shrugged, bored with my angst. He seemed smaller, already shrinking himself to fit in a space that could never accommodate his restless need to move. How shriveled I must seem to him, I thought. How much is atrophied as I sat here, longing for the stars. This is wrong, he said. This is all wrong. I looked out the window at the square of starless sky, just visible over the rooftops, and I couldn't help but agree. The longing that had never really left me, despite the distractions I threw over it, like the doily covering the stains on the arm of my chair, grew stronger and louder, and I thought that I would burst with it. How do I make it right? I said, wondering how I could be so old and yet feel so young. The kangaroo made his way back to the window then, tipping over everything in his wake. He struggled to climb out again. The rug kept slipping under his tail and he couldn't bound free from a standing start, back into the sky. His fall to the street was an ugly, twisting thing. Someone cried out. I looked down. People ran away first, and then back towards, ripples of tragedy moving them like they were dancing. I looked up, searching for the hole in the stars. I knew him to be a wily thing. This couldn't be the end. As usual, the sky had no answers for me. It was empty of everything, a murky void hanging low over the city. I dragged a stool to the window, wondering how even that simple task caused my breath to leave me in puffs and gasps. I clambered up, all my movement ungainly as I got one leg out, and then the other. I sat on the sill, caught between the ground and the void that hid the stars. I heard the kangaroo's voice inside my head. "What do you choose?" he said. I inhaled, and I was lonely for the scent of sun-baked grass. I let go of the window frame. I fell up, through the void that hid the sky. I fragmented, splitting into shards that burned, swarming and misting and breaking apart. It hurt. It felt like ecstasy. And then I was above the void, and there were the stars, pressed fresh into the sky by that careful silver needle. I would have laughed, had I still a mouth to laugh with. "That's right," said the kangaroo. I hope that you enjoyed this story. Thank you for listening to it. I hope that you enjoyed your comfortable spot and your banana if you had one. Carrying that through till the bitter end. Anyway, if you would like more of these stories and bonus stories that nobody else has heard except the other patrons, you can find them on patreon.com/Can I Tell You a Story. Now, until next time, should a kangaroo come to visit you from the stars, ask him direct questions. It makes him uncomfortable.